Hello, my name's Ben.
And my name's Josh.
Welcome back to FPL Graduates and welcome back to another video. A little bit of a different one today. Of course, we've had a couple of postponements in the Premier League. We've had a couple of cup fixtures, go the full way, and we're getting to that latter stages of the competitions now, which means double and blank game weeks are just around the corner for FPL managers now. So it's best to start thinking about the strategies that you're going to be going into ahead of this run of double game weeks, blank game weeks, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
Okay then, yeah, so strategy is a big thing in FPL. If you're wanting to reach those higher ranks, to use your chips in the right manner is absolutely crucial. So we're going to talk through initially the key blanks and double game weeks that we've got coming up at the moment. All of these are not confirmed 100%, but the likelihood of these being correct is pretty high. I'd say about 75% or higher. So we'll kick it off with the reschedulement of that Merseyside derby. Obviously, Liverpool and Everton game got postponed earlier in the season. It's extremely likely to fall within game week 24 or game week 25. There's no confirmation yet. We should get it probably just after the game week 23 deadline. So yeah, obviously really good for anyone who's got any Liverpool assets. Equally, if you've got maybe Jordan Pickford as well, that double should provide a good opportunity, Ben, to maybe look at the first of all assistant manager chip, because obviously that comes into play game week 24, and or the triple captaincy chip if people haven't used it already, right?
Yeah, I think the triple captaincy chip it's definitely going to sort of come into play at some point with the fixtures that are coming up for Liverpool, and that double game week is really appealing with the form, particularly of Mo Salah. If it's in 24, of course, that falls within the game week that they're playing Bournemouth, and if it's in 25, that falls within the game week that they're playing Wolves at home. So definitely triple captaincy material in both game weeks. So in my opinion, I think that could be sort of the stronger chip to go for, because you're obviously sort of going to be able to triple up on those Liverpool assets as well. Maybe the downside is that you might not be able to sort of go for Arnie Slot for maybe the safe points. You think they're going to sort of get wins in that period of time. But yeah, in terms of the triple captaincy chip, that's probably going to be the prime time to use it, as that's likely to be the best double that we get from Liverpool this season.
Okay then, so going into the more traditional blanks and doubles that we've got coming up, this is due to the EFL Cup and the FA Cup. So starting off first in game week 29, whoever gets to the EFL Cup final and whoever they play in game week 29, they will blank in game week 29, obviously. So at the moment, at the time of recording, Newcastle won the first leg against Arsenal 2-0, so obviously they're going to be favourites to go through to the final. As it stands, Newcastle and Crystal Palace will blank in that week. At the time of recording, it's just started the second half of Liverpool-Tottenham. That is 0-0, obviously dependent on who they play in that game week and who progresses. Those two teams will blank in there. So yeah, interesting to keep an eye on, because a lot of the teams that are going through, e.g. Newcastle, Palace, even Liverpool, we have lots of assets from these teams already. So my sort of plan at the moment is hopefully to go into this game week in dead end, and what we mean by that is basically just transfer these players out little by little as you reach game week 29, so you can field a full 11 for that week, and then wildcard in game week 30. Alternatively, if you've got loads of these players, like your team is just Newcastle, Palace and Liverpool or Spurs, then you could also just free hit that game week as well. What's your thoughts, Ben, on that sort of strategy? Do you like the dead end idea? It sort of forces you into that wildcard though, doesn't it, afterwards?
Yeah, it does force you into the wild card, and there is elements of risk with that. And the reason being is that the fixtures previous to that are quite good for all of those teams that we speak about that could potentially have the sort of blank game week. Obviously, if we talk about Liverpool have Southampton at home, Crystal Palace have Ipswich at home, Newcastle have West Ham away. These are really decent fixtures on the FDR, and a fixture that you'd expect assets to do well in. So you're obviously sort of sacrificing, some of these players that could sort of get quite a lot of points for the safety of knowing that you'll have a full team for 29. So I really think it's going to sort of depend team by team, because you could probably get away with, sort of a one or two on each team from that. But, if you're tripled up on sort of both the teams and they blank, then, you're in a position where I think it might be easier for you to just use that free hit, and then maybe you utilize that wild card a little bit later down the line. I think for these 2 blank game weeks we've got coming up, one of them you're going to free hit, the other you're going to sort of dead end to wildcard. It's just sort of it's a very close strategy between the two of them, and it's just going to be team dependent at this moment in time.
Yeah, of course. And then obviously those games that obviously will be blanketing 29 will then be rescheduled into double game week 33. Again, it's not confirmed, so take it with a pinch of salt in terms of the reschedulement at the moment. It's going to be roughly around that time though. So yeah, obviously those teams that we mentioned, Newcastle, maybe Crystal Palace, those guys will have double game weeks in that week. So far in terms of predictions, the fixtures, they're not the best double game weeks. It tends to be like one good fixture, one bad fixture. So one to keep an eye on. We'll go through the fixtures in more detail after this section, looking at the sort of the key matchups and stuff like that. Obviously, following that, in blank game week 34 will be the FA Cup semi-finalists. So obviously, we haven't even had any of the FA Cup from the Premier League teams so far, but it is this weekend. So in terms of your transfers, it's probably best to hold them before then. If we get teams knocked out early in the FA Cup from a Premier League point of view, it tends to be good because then they're not going to be blanking in that game week. Equally though, if they are going to be blanking, their doubles will fall to game week 36 this year. It's previously been game week 37 typically, but I think there's quite a few finals that week, like the FA Cup final, I think the Europa League finals that week as well. So it's 36 most probably this year. And obviously, like we say, the semi-finals from the FA Cup and their opponents in the Premier League that week will be doubling in that game week. So yeah, as Ben mentions, obviously it's almost a tale of two sides, whether you want to go early in terms of the free hit or maybe save it for a double game week or blank game week later in the season. We're going to look into now some of the fixtures and potential fixtures that could happen if there's some of these blanks and doubles that we predict. Okay then, so on the screen hopefully you can just about see FPL.team projected fixtures along with Planet FPL. If you haven't used this tool before, it's probably, I would say, the best tool for planning the doubles and blanks and your chip strategy personally. It basically tells you what sort of fixtures could be coming and when, which is really, really handy, as we've sort of just been mentioning. So hopefully on the screen you can see, obviously, in game week 24, as it stands, that's where the most likely projection is for this reschedulement to happen for Everton and Liverpool. So Everton in that week have Leicester at home and Liverpool at home, so not a bad double game week to be fair. Obviously, Everton defensively a very solid team so far this season, so it could be a good chance of clean sheets there for the likes of Pickford, Mikalenko, etc. Liverpool, Bournemouth away and Everton away. 2 away fixtures isn't ideal, but could be decent as well. Obviously, they've got Wolves at home in game week 25, so if it was rescheduled for them, it would be Wolves at home for them. Equally for Everton, it would be Liverpool at home, Crystal Palace away. So yeah, some decent fixtures to be fair for both those sides. And again, you can see this, how your team looks with these fixtures as well, if that makes sense. If I scroll up here, we've got Ben's team at the moment. So if you went ahead into game week 24, which we'll do now, you see Trent's got a double, Salah's got a double, Jota's got a double. So yeah, some decent way to sort of plan around your season, I guess you could say. In terms of your strategy at the moment, Ben, obviously you're on triple Liverpool with that extra attacker. What's your sort of plan at the moment? Is it to hold Diogo Jota through and have him for that double, or are you thinking of maybe going to any other sort of route?
Yeah, there's a possibility that I don't hold him, and that you use a maybe sort of different Liverpool asset that I think is more nailed on at the time. But it's running a little bit of a risk. I have transferred in Jota. It's a case of sort of waiting and seeing. I think with the EFL Cup and with the FA Cup as well, before we've got the next game week, it may give us a bit of an idea going into sort of the next couple of weeks who's going to be playing in the double game week. So at the moment, it's almost a wait and see for me. Let's see how they get on against Forest and Brentford away, and then of course there's a fantastic run then, Ipswich double game week Wolves, which is fantastic, and you're going to want 3 Liverpool players no matter what, or potentially 2 and Arnie Slot, and if you have already used that triple captain chip. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. At the moment, it will keep relatively similar.
Okay then, so yeah, if we look ahead into game week 29, so they've already updated this as of last night in terms of Newcastle being more of the favourites to go through. So as I've said, Newcastle and Palace are due to blank if Newcastle go through. In terms of sort of like betting odds, I guess you could say Liverpool are more likely to go through over Tottenham. So if that was to happen, Liverpool and Aston Villa would blank. I think if Spurs went through, it would be Spurs and Fulham. So that's just something to bear in mind. Obviously, a lot of us have maybe like Morgan Rogers as well as like sort of a bench player. So just thinking out loud right now, Rogers, Salah, Trent, Isak, Gordon, Munoz, Mateta, Sarr. There's a plethora of assets that we might have blanking in 29. So as it stands right now, if your team's containing any of those sorts of guys, I think free hit 29 would probably be advised, I guess you could say. And then, yeah, as we move forward, obviously game week 33, we mentioned those double game weeks. As I said, the fixtures aren't the best. We've got Villa with Newcastle at home and Liverpool at home. Again, not the best. Palace, Bournemouth at home, Newcastle away. It's not bad. I'd say Liverpool probably have the best ones with Leicester away and Villa away. And then Newcastle have Villa away and Palace at home. In terms of that game week 33, Ben, is there sort of any chip you'd be planning on using through that? I think a few people have been thinking about the assistant manager during that time.
Yeah, the assistant manager could be a good move to make. It's obviously so dependent on these fixture. I think you're very much looking at sort of the better teams in the run. So you may be looking at sort of like that Liverpool run is quite tasty leading up to that double game week. There's that's probably sort of the only sort of guys we'd look at. Maybe Newcastle as well would be an option there. It's a really tough time for managers because the planning has gotten a little more difficult with this new chip, and it's just something to take into consideration. I think you are going to want to use that within one of the double game weeks, the assistant manager chip. It's just about working out which one's going to be sort of most beneficial for you. Obviously, the later we get on the season, the less that some teams have to play for, so you maybe can factor that in towards the end of the season as well. If you've got sort of a team like Liverpool sort of battling at the top of the table, playing sort of someone that's not playing for anything, then you maybe could expect some wins out of that. So yeah, it's really interesting, and the potential is there to play that assistant manager chip.
Yeah, I think 100%. Obviously, if you're not sure on how the assistant managership works, we've got a video dedicated to it when it got released, a full guide on it, basically. So make sure you go check that out. That'll be top of the description. I think what stands out for me is maybe like Oliver Glasner. They've got obviously that double game week, Bournemouth at home, Newcastle away. You'd imagine those teams could be those 5 places above Palace at the time. So obviously there's more chance of them getting extra points or double points. Same with Forest and Tottenham. Both of them you might expect to be 5 places ahead of Palace during that time. But obviously it's a long way away to be sort of predicting that at the moment. And obviously, yeah, double game week 36. It's going to be the largest double game week of the season. This typically would see a lot of managers use their bench boost. Obviously these are sort of predicted in terms of who's most likely to advance through the FA Cup at the moment. It will drastically change because the FA Cup is just one of those competitions that sees a lot of upsets. So yeah, I would use this as a pinch of salt at the moment, but it's just good to know, when you're going to be using it. I think for me personally, I'd probably use my bench boost that week. But yeah, overall, it's a fairly solid thing. So as I say, FPL.team, if you wanted to get your team on there and sort of plan it, you just need your FPL ID, which you can find in the URL of the FPL website when you're looking at your team on sort of Safari or whatever browser you use. So yeah, should be pretty helpful for you guys planning your teams going forwards. Okay, then so that wraps up our strategy video for this week. Obviously a little bit of extra content with the sort of bigger gap between the game weeks at the moment. There will still be transfer targets and our team reveals to come before the Tuesday night deadline next week. So bear that in mind if you are obviously making plans and transfers ahead of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly one to bear in mind. Can catch a couple of managers out that midweek deadline. As always, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the FPL Graduates. I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
We'll see you guys
next time. Have a good game week, everyone.
So you may rise, but you'll never make me wanna stick